All right, guys, we got legal issues in the news, we got questions, and we got guys who can answer them. Dan and Chuck from Del Rio and Caraway joining us this morning. Good morning, gentlemen. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning.
All right, so one of the big stories, obviously, the past week or so has been these anti-ICE protests down in Los Angeles, and there were cases where those Waymo self-driving cars were set on fire. What do you see as the legal issues, other than, I mean, obviously, it's illegal to set a car on fire.
Right. That's the obvious one.
That was clear, yeah.
Yeah.
What's
I'm not even a lawyer.
is the thought process. So Waymo pulled its cars out of the area, right? Rightfully so. I mean, obviously, just looking at, what those cars must cost, sure, there's that going on. But the other thought process is a little deeper, is to think of, okay, you're a passenger in one of these vehicles. You've simply gotten a ride, and just like with Uber or anything, said, take me to this destination. You have no control over that ride. Yeah. You're just a passenger. What if that ride is now taking you through a dangerous environment of an ongoing violent protest?
Yeah.
What if this gets you caught up in it?
Yeah.
So from the standpoint of you as the mere passenger to this service are now getting put in danger by this automated car service, let alone what's already going on there. It's an interesting idea that, in the end of the day, how would that play out in terms of responsibilities and things? And so Waymo, rightfully so, just said, look, we're operating in other parts of the city. We'll pull out of this area. That's a no-go zone.
It feels as though that hasn't happened yet. But it's going, this is going to happen at some point, and there's going to be a legal issue.
It would be a smart move.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of the questions with any automated service like this is it doesn't have the ability to necessarily make these last-minute emergency decisions. So.
Yeah, exactly. So another funny story we saw recently was the TSA wanted people to know that your Costco card does not replace a real ID in terms of getting through security at the airport.
I love this story. And so, listening to it and reading it, people thought maybe the Costco card was good enough for real ID because it had stars on it, just like the real ID.
Because you're the Gold Star member?
That was it. Yeah. So maybe that was why it was a real ID. It has a little bit of a photo on it. But, I mean, TSA just, came out, finally had to make a public announcement on their site. Like, look, we love chickens and hot dogs as much as anyone, but your Costco card's not good enough. To which you've got like 40,000 plus people who have now commented back, wait, I need to bring a hot dog now too? So, at least there's good humor in it. But yeah, it's an interesting bit of confusion as to how people thought that would work.
Fun fact, I once flew with just a business card. I lost my ID, and they're like, you can bring a business card, you have to go through the extra screening, but it works. So Costco ID at least has my picture on it, so that works.
I honestly always wondered what would happen.
Yeah.
All right,
okay, so we've talked about this before. There was this agreement by Apple to settle a lawsuit claiming that it was using Siri to spy on people. I think it took $100 million.
Yes.
I have an iPhone, I have Siri. How do I or somebody go about actually collecting on this?
So it's a relatively simple process. It's a website. Just search it and you go to it, and what you're allowed is $20 per device that you owned from 2014, there's an exact date, up to December 31st of 2024 for a maximum of $100. It's a $95 million settlement. All you have to do is go to the website, register. As long as you follow all of the guidelines, then you get a check in the mail.
It's interesting. I feel like I had at least two during that time, if not more.
It's any Apple device that had Siri, so it's for 10 years. It's going to be every cell phone that you owned.
So it's like go to the website, get $100, basically.
Yep, basically, yes.
Interesting. Lastly, there was this thing on TikTok, which about
it's a credible news source now.
But it was talking about Pennsylvania law went into effect, a do not touch law, talking about you cannot even touch your cell phone when you're driving. But a lot of it was wrong. Clear up the legalities of all this for us.
So what's going around TikTok is that 31 states are going to implement this new law as of June 5th of this year. Yeah. But the misinformation, first of all, is that 30 states have already had this. California's had it as far back as like somewhere 2014, 2016.
Not a new law.
Pennsylvania will now be the 31st state that implements this law.
And the law essentially is what?
So California actually has already had appellate level law on this, and what it says is that a phone, you are allowed to access it so long as it's not a distraction. It's like one touch. If I want to change their station on whatever you're using to listen to music, or you want to use GPS or something like that, you're allowed to access it, but it can't become a distraction.
Yeah. Texting, stuff like that.
Exactly. One of the things that the TikToker brought up was that, well, what happens if you get pulled over? You're not allowed to push the record button. No, you're no longer operating a vehicle when you've pulled it over, put it into park, and maybe even turned off the ignition at that point. So you would then be able to access your phone if you want to record the conversation between you and the police officer.
So I always say it's a bad idea to get your news from TikTok. Bad idea to get your legal advice from TikTok as well. We have the experts here. Gentlemen, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, sir, very much.
All right, Court.
Thank you so much. All right, time now is 9:17. Get some fresh bowls using fruits that will make you feel like you are in paradise with some other delicious clean food options. They have it all. Molly